Bring the meeting to order, please. Commissioner Johnson, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please, sir?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, particularly the Board of Assessors. We appreciate you being here. The purpose of our meeting tonight is several months ago we received a proposal from GMass. Folks are on the front row. And it was an interesting proposal. And what we wanted to do tonight was to have an open meeting with the full Board of Assessors, the Board of Commissioners, and GMass to discuss their proposal and see if we can find some ways to work on this budget that has been an issue for me personally. So we will, when GMass makes their presentation, we'll do something here basically to show you what the concern is and give you numbers and facts on why that concern is there. And then we'll have any questions will be basically just from the tax assessors board or employees. We're not going to have public commentary tonight. And of course we'll have a Board of Commissioners meeting pretty soon. So if you want to comment at that point, you certainly can do that. But tonight, the question and answers is going to be between the tax assessor board, GMass, and the Board of Commissioners, which at any time you can do that. And the reason we have them here, it's just a lot easier, particularly on GMass, if there's a question that the board is here, you raise your hand, and it's a lot easier to see you right here instead of somewhere else. But having said that, you want to get us started there on the presentation? I need some lights back there. The friendly gentleman there in the back, would you turn the lights down, sir? Yeah, you, sir. Thank you very much. Okay. I want to give you a little recent history on Fannin's tax assessor budget. And you can see there, going back to 2013, 14, and 15, what the budget was for the tax assessors. And then the increase from 15 to 16 and 2017, actually that increase is a little greater than that 28%. But this was, of course, you had a consent order that had to be filled, and we understand that there had to be additional investments in the tax assessor's department, and that represents the majority of that increase. We did an analysis of 9 surrounding counties. The Cherokee County is actually Cherokee County, North Carolina, not Cherokee County, Georgia. But you can see that our budget, and this is a comparison that is everything on the same comparison, but our budget, including the benefits for the employees, $968,000 this year. And the average budget for all the surrounding counties is $575,000. That's almost $400,000 a year more than what we're paying. And of course, the closest county to us is Gilmer County, and I don't have the exact number on there, slightly over 800,000. Breaking it down in per parcel budgets, there's only 2 counties that are a little higher than we are, and I believe that is Banks County and Dawson County. But the average cost per parcel of all the other 9 counties is $28.25 per parcel. And compared to our cost per parcel, that's $35.86. That's about 25% higher than these other counties. And that's just one measurement. Per capita budget, and of course this is taken from the latest census numbers, and you can see what that is. We are far and ahead more expensive cost per capita than any of these other counties. Every man, woman, and child in Fannin County contributes $38.24 to the 2017 cost for the budget. And you can see the average of the other counties, $21.35. Average number of employees. Again, Fannin, you may have lost an employee here recently, so you're at 13, but the number is still representative that we are the highest in number of employees of any other county around. 8.5 employees per department. For the other counties where we have now 13 instead of 14, but it's still higher than the others. Insurance, we threw that in there. And Robin, I believe that 120,000 is what was budgeted, not what has actually been, what the cost has been this year. Is that correct?
It's a comparative if we were fully insured as opposed to self-insured for that department.
Right. And that's just a number. I mean, it's not to say we're better or anybody else is worse. This is just what the insurance cost. Someone had brought that up previously. Did we include it? Well, here is what we have on that. And those numbers are included when we compare. And then again, the summary here, you can look at each one of these budgets. Now the one that is, all of them are interesting to me, Gordon County, that's Calhoun. They have 57,000 people in their county. That's twice more than Fannin County. Same number of parcels. They have 8 employees. And their budget is $692,000 compared to our $968. And I believe GMass has worked with Gordon County in different venues. I know I talked to them personally back earlier this year about your services. And the point I'm trying to make here, take the emotion out of this. I understand what we're talking about here. This is a difficult thing to address, but my whole career has been in running business. And that's what Fannin County is. It is a business. It's a $27.5 million a year business. And I'm not remiss at all in asking every department to step up to the challenge to produce the best value of products, whatever that is, whether it be the Public Works Department, the Recreation Department, our Fire and Rescue, any of these departments, we need to do the best job we can professionally and at the lowest cost to the taxpayers. Now this is not, again, you've got to take the personalities out of this. Mr. Johnson, if you, in your paving business, if your costs were twice as high or that much higher than your other competitors, where would your business be? You wouldn't be operating, would you? And I dare say anybody running a business.
It's what we spoke about 2 months ago. These numbers, which you presented to me then, after you spoke with us, I guess what got us to where we're at now is once looking at the comparative numbers, and now we've got them all compiled and everyone can see them. So it's a very good visual for everybody to judge their opinions off of, in my opinion.
Now, we have copies of this. We're certainly glad to furnish copies. We have extras here, and if someone wants a copy, I think I'll just have them contact you, Robin, if that's all right.
They're right here back
And,
in
yeah, and we can do that. But I was elected to look after the taxpayer dollars, and I'm not going to back off from challenging any department if I feel like we've got ways to improve and bring greater value to the taxpaying citizens of the county. They deserve that, and that's what they're going to get. Christy, you want to get up and introduce yourself? Would you turn the lights on there, please? Christy, you want to introduce yourself and your team?
Hello, everyone. My name is Christy Reese. I'm Terry McCormick on GMass. We do revaluations across the state. We serve as appraisers in multiple counties, and we do all kind of appraisal work. The folks I have here tonight are Stan King. He'll be doing our presentation. We've got Terry McCormick. He's a co-owner. Greg Reese, he's our technical officer. And Mark Floyd. He is our, what was your name? Business analyst. Business analyst. He is new. He's from the Department of Revenue. Greg and Mark have both worked at the Department of Revenue for many years, and are now, we're glad to have them on staff. So Stan, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, that's fine. Like Christy said, my name is Stan King, and we brought everybody the
big guns from our company. So if anybody had any questions, get to meet us all, and there should be an answer. One of us should have an answer, but thank you for the opportunity. But
Could you hold your mic to your mouth, please?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right, so we're GMass, Georgia Mass Appraisal Solutions and Services. We're a local Georgia company. We combine over 100 years of combined services. Work in over 80 counties in Georgia. We feel like we're the leader in Georgia Property Tax Assessment Administration. All of us are DOR, Department of Revenue certified, IAAO certified, Georgia Real Estate Appraiser Board certified. A few of us are ESRI certified, which is in the GIS mapping cartography. We've got experience in multiple appraisal systems. I believe you guys are on WinGap, which is the most common, but we do have experience in other camera systems, which is the mass appraisal programs that the counties use. You met all of us, and that's our emails there. Like Christy said, Terry's the CEO, Christy's the CFO, Greg Reese, her husband's the CTO, me, I'm the COO, and Mark is the business analyst. We've got a total of 36 total employees, 2 business analysts, 6 project managers, 5 GIS analysts, 15 field appraisers, and 8 appraisal support folks. Again, all of our appraisers are certified with the Real Estate Appraiser Board, ESRI, prior DOR agents. We've got one that was one of our project managers was a prior Department of Audits and Accounts agent. And we're members of the GAAO and IAAO. And this is, you can go to our website, gmass.net, and this, you'll see these same slides kind of representing who we are and what we do. Whether you need total reevaluation. Some counties, we do just a reevaluation for 1 year to get them into compliance, and we'll leave. And they may call us back within 3 years whenever they need us to review. Some of them just need support and appeal assistance, or just to help them finish some additional field work, installing networks. We'll vacuum the floor. But we do appraisals, commercial and industrial land, residential. But we do, among other things, we do mapping services, workflow analysis, GIS services. Again, you can go to our website and see all of that. This is a map that represents where we are. Our current projects there in the darker shade of red. That's where we're currently doing reevaluation works in. And so we pretty much canvassed the state from top to bottom. And our total field reviews for the company this year, we're going to breach 83,000 parcels where our folks have actually went out, photographed, measured, documented the properties, and we've appraised them. And you can see the history in the prior years to that. We average about 8,000 parcels reviewed per month for company-wide. This is a sample project reporting. This one happens to be in Coweta, where we're doing a total reevaluation. This is a 3-year program, but this is kind of a weekly status report that we give the Board of Assessors and Board of Commissioners, whoever requests it, but it goes to the Chief Appraiser, showing the different phases of the project, how we track and document our work, and so they can get an idea of, are we on track, on target for the project. And it also gets broken down to where we can track our folks in the field. Who's doing what, are we hitting our benchmarks in the project, so we make sure we can finish on time. We've recently joined forces with a company called Campbell Cloud to do our field work. We used to print all the property record cards and the parcels, take them out, verify and write on the cards, bring them back to a data entry clerk, and she would enter those in, and then we go through the analysis. Well, With CamaCloud, this is a mobile device where when they're out in the field, they can do all the collection, data entry, and the photographing of the properties right there on site. And if they got any questions, this software helps them navigate the console in the office. You can track, see where everybody's at, what time they were on the property, where they took the photo. So it's pretty neat software. Helps streamline our production. So we were contacted to address a couple of concerns to go over with the commission and the board. There was a question about parcels under appeal and the current staff budget. The question was, they felt like if there were more than 3% of properties under appeal, that you couldn't submit your digest. But OCGA 485304 states that in order to bill and collect will not be issued if the value in dispute exceeds 5% of the total taxable digest in a non-reevaluation year. Value in dispute and number of parcels cannot exceed 8% in a year when a complete reevaluation or reappraisal program is completed. So in a reevaluation year, you have to have 8% of value in dispute and 8% of the total parcels, both. Is that correct? To meet that amount to be able to submit your digest. And then if the value in dispute of any one appeal exceeds 1.5%, then the total assessed value of the total assessed value, the total taxable digest, this appeal may exclude from the above calculation.
You can remove them, and if it's one appeal that's over the 1.5, so that one appeal
Right.
cannot hold up the digest.
One appeal cannot hold up the digest. But basically what that states is during a reevaluation year, it has to be 8% of the number of parcels and 8% of the value in dispute. If it's not a reevaluation year, it's 5% of the value in dispute. As far as there's an example of the 5%, 8% rule. So for Fannin County, you would have to have $200 million in value in dispute on a 5% in a non-reevaluation year. But during a reevaluation year, you'd have to have $320 million in value in dispute. And you would have to have nearly, what is that, 2180 parcels under appeal. So you'd have to have $320 million in value in dispute and 2,180 parcels in dispute before the state wouldn't accept the digest. As far as the amount of appraisers' budgets, I'm just pulling this from OCGA. That's basically all I feel like I can give any insight on. But OCGA 485261 states that a Class 5 county, which Fannin County is between 25,000 and 34,999 parcels. You're considered a Class 5 county. And for a Class 5 county, the state law requires you to have 2 appraiser 2s, and 1 appraiser 1. So that's the minimum requirement by law that you have to have is 5 appraisers. IAAO has a standard of mass appraisal on real property that was set in 1984. Shouldn't have made that in red. But basically they state that they recommend that the staffing for real property appraisals of a parcels per appraiser ratio be greater than 2,500 to 1. And if you do their calculations, the total parcels in Fannin minus out the number of mobile homes, divide that by the number of appraisers. Now that's appraisers actually doing the appraising of the property, not the total staff, because you may have secretaries, clerk, or something like that, but I believe you have 11 certified appraisers with the Department of Revenue. If you do that, that's a per parcels per appraiser ratio of 2604. And we've done that based on your total parcels, or our total parcel count. We're doing between 6,000 and 8,000 parcels per appraisers annually with our current projects.
So the 2604 is the amount we're at with the current staff we have now?
With 11 appraisers. If all 11 appraisers are doing the appraising of the property.
That's how many would be assigned to them, that's how many they would have.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
That's how many would be assigned to them. If you had all 11 appraisers out in the field with the amount of parcels that we have, then that's how many they would be responsible for each. Would be 2,600. And I think the point he's trying to make here is that our appraisers are doing about 6,000 to 8,000 a year.
And we're doing 2604?
That's how many you could be doing.
How many you could be doing on average?
I don't know. I don't know how many they're currently doing.
Hopefully we'll find that out.
And I guess to kind of sell ourselves, other than the great vast knowledge, would be, you know, to hire GMass, you could save on salaries, insurance, retirement, training, education, automotive equipment, software license, and subscriptions. We're currently, we have multiple contracts, but we're currently in 3 counties now as a joint venture with the assessors, being part of their full-time staff annually, recurrently. Now, we have several counties that call us yearly that says, you know, we need your help. Can you come give us a couple days here or there, a couple weeks here and there? But these 3 counties, we're under a permanent contract with them as part of their staffing. Gwinnett County, we've been there for 11 years, I believe it is. 2006. And we've got a few contracts with them over there as full-time staff. We're doing field reviews, part of their 3rd parcel field review. So the state requires that all the parcels in the county be visited, at least a 1/3 of them every year. And the another project we've got is assisting with them with all the new construction permits. So our folks go out and measure the new construction, new houses and additions. We also assist them annually with their residential real property appeals. We currently do all of their motor vehicle appeals, and we're under a 3-year, I call it reappraisals. It's actually called a market modeling project, where we take their assessments and model the market and help them with their reappraisals on the 3rd year review. So that'll be ending next year. In Hall County, we're currently part of their staff there doing the field reviews, doing new construction and permits, assisting with the real property appeals. And starting next year, we're going to be assisting them in part of the actual valuations from year after year over certain areas. I think Steve wants to group it as these appraisers are over this area, and we'll probably be responsible for an area within the county as their other staff are.
Stan, do you know what Hall's budget is for their tax assessors?
I don't right offhand, but just a second, I can tell you. I can Google it.
And they're approximately, what's the population, parcel numbers you have there?
I know they're over 75,000 parcels. I think it's 77,000 parcels. Not sure what the population or budget.
And their staffing is what size?
We have 4 residential and 2 commercial appraisers.
Yeah, 2 commercial appraisers, 4 residential appraisers, and we're filling in the other appraiser needs areas.
Do you have any ballpark idea? Then I don't want to pin you down on it, but the budget. You can come up with it later.
I don't, but I'll get right back to you.
Okay. They're a lot bigger than Fannin County, correct?
Yes.
As far as the parcels.
Yeah, that's 77,000 parcels. I mean, that's Gainesville, Oakwood, Flowery Branch. In Carroll County, we're actually their full-time commercial and industrial appraiser over there. So we handle all their commercial and industrial appraisals, from the evaluations, middling of the assessments, to handling the appeals afterwards. So we're their full-time commercial staff in Carroll. And again, we got several other counties that'll call us frequently that do similar projects like this, but these are under contract. We know how many we're going to get year after year. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I've got one. A couple actually. How many counties are you doing the whole entire county? Like taking over their whole office, their whole assessor's office?
No.
Okay. And you said that you were doing, you had 32 people in your office?
Well, there's 36 in total folks that work with us, and that ranges from mappers to data entry clerks, the field.
Okay, because I just didn't see 85,000 if you're doing 6,000.
That's just considering our field appraisers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see that. But the other thing I find unique is when you're talking about the OCGA 48-5-262, the minimum appraiser staff required for the Class 5 county was 2 appraiser 3s, 2 2s, and 1 appraiser 1. Right? That's what you had up on the slide?
I believe so.
Okay. In addition to that, you've got to have those requirements, the staffing demands of the board also, which is a chief appraiser. Is that correct? Do I have that?
It could be.
This could be one of those purple.
Then you have to have a
DORs.
technician, a personal property appraiser, support staff, and deed clerk, at least 1. So that takes away from, that adds to that number where you were trying to say 5.
The chief appraiser could serve as one of those 5 that was listed.
Okay.
The law doesn't require anything about a GIS clerk. It does say that you have to have somebody designated to do personal property. So that could be one of those, according to how many personal property accounts, and it varies by county because some counties may have a lot of accounts, some may have few, and may not warrant having a full-time person doing just personal property. But so they may share real property and personal property. And then
So you say we don't need any staff at all?
I'm not saying that, I'm just talking about the appraiser's designation.
Okay. And then where do you all get your information? Where are you all planning on getting your information for Fannin County?
Information regarding
To
do
take over doing the assessments?
For the comprehensive plan.
or you're talking about for appraising the property?
Yes.
All the information is from Fannin County. All the market data
Okay.
comes, all the income
Are
data.
you gonna show up in our office and we're just gonna say, here you go? Or are you gonna come up to the courthouse?
That's for you guys to tell us what you want us to do. I mean,
Okay, because what what I think what's been presented is that you all are going to come in and take possession of county in a sense. And I didn't see anything in the presentation where it looked like you were doing everything. And I understand y'all are really basically a support group, not a takeover. Is that correct?
that's correct. You want to, hang on one second.
Yeah, the purpose of the proposal that we've given the county is not to take over the tax assessor's office. That's not our intent. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to lend a hand to the tax assessor's office and try to cut in the budget at the same time. So, yeah, we would work side by side with the tax assessor's office, not a come in and take over type of deal at all.
Okay, so what you're saying is if you're granted the proposal, the comprehensive proposal that y'all doled out, you're going to be keeping the 5 people that the OCGA 48-5-262 is calling for.
I believe that would be their call, their recommendation.
And there's still going to be a staff in the tax assessor's office.
That has to do work for you all.
Not for us, with us.
And then you're going to have to rely on our information because you can't use our information as credible until you get comfortable with it, correct?
Well, yeah, with your CAMA system, that's what we would go out and be checking. We would use your parcel there, things of that nature. But we would definitely go out and verify it. Mhm.
And that takes all of y'all in your office.
It'll take a good number of us. Mhm.
Yeah, so, that's what I was kind of hoping for that answer, that it takes almost all of your
No,
36.
Not-
the
it doesn't-
36 will be up here. We would have probably 2 full-time staff there daily.
It's not gonna
You would
take
have-
36 of us full-time.
Here again,
It would be a
None of this
limited
work
number
goes
of
to your
people
office.
here. Excuse me?
None of the work goes
No,
back to anybody
it
else. in
stays
your
in
office.
No,
your
it all stays
So
in
you're
your
talking
office.
about 2 people.
Probably two field appraisers, that would be up here checking the property. And then there would be other people that would come up.
You'd have project managers, you'd have data analysis, GIS folks.
But you wouldn't see somebody from our office here every day, no.
Uh,
I have a question.
Are y'all wanting to take over
No,
the assessor's office?
no. We
Does
don't
the
want
county
to
want you
take, we're not taking over, we're working with you. I mean, we're trying to assist the tax assessor's office.
But
To help us.
assist also in cutting a budget, which means cutting jobs for outside.
That's a possibility, I think. Mhm.
I don't think that's the goal.
Next question.
I have a question. Whose responsibility would it be for all of our new building permits? So the new construction, as we get building permits annually, who would be doing those?
We would be doing the construction.
You would be doing all the new construction along with your designated site visit.
That's right.
Okay. And who would be responsible for like what we call customer service site visits? If a taxpayer comes in right now and they have a question about their property or they think something's incorrect and we have an appraiser that's designated to that area.
Mhm.
We have 7 appraisers that are designated to area 6 in particular, and 1 mobile home, who handles mobile homes. So who would be responsible for those individual site visits?
That would probably be someone from your office, one of the staff that was remaining.
Okay, and who would be responsible for the working of the deeds and all the transactions? Fannin County had well over 30,000 or 3,000 deed transactions that should take place just in the first 9.5 months. Who would be responsible for working the deeds so that you could use the
The
market?
county would still be responsible for that.
Okay, and, what are some of the responsibilities that have done this in the past, and what are other responsibilities that the current staff or the 5 that they're talking about would still have to accomplish before GMass could perform their duties?
During a normal year, when I say a normal year, a maintenance year, which is the first 2 years of this proposal, the schedule don't actually occur until the 3rd year. That's the year we need the sales entered, everything kept up to date. The county's still gonna be responsible for all of that, the data entry of the sales, the qualifying of the sales, general office work, taking homestead applications. Your normal activities are still gonna have to take place. All that we're replacing are appraisers, basically, out in the field. That's what we're doing. We're catching you up on your field work and maintaining your schedules. So the county's still gonna be responsible for doing deed work. There's no mention of mapping, I don't believe, in this contract, so you're still, you're still under that, although we do mapping, and that's a possibility.
All the personal property. would still
Personal
be
property,
appraised.
so you still have to have a personal property appraiser.
Okay, the numbers that were up there earlier that, y'all said was kind of your best guess. In all actuality, we have 29,654 parcels. That's 2,254 mobile homes. We have a mobile home appraiser that does those, and 6 appraisers that work on the 27,396 parcels. We have a personal property appraiser that does 4,236. I'm sorry, that does 4,507 accounts. So on average, if you even do our personal property or our mobile homes in there, we have 6 full-time appraisers that are in the field and have their designated area. And if you threw the mobile homes in there, it's 4,236 parcels per appraiser that's out there in the field. We don't have 11 people out there in the field. Because Fannin County's growth is so wild, and we have so much going on in Fannin County, I just can't understand how that, with myself, a mapper, a personal property department appraiser, and 2 field workers or 2 other appraisers are ever gonna be able to provide for y'all what you would need provided in order for you to do your job. So what happens when someone cuts staff and they choose to do that down to that 5 minimum, and we are not able to pull off what you need to do your job? What happens then? Who's responsible and what happens then? Because that's a very legit situation.
I think that we need to clarify, that's the minimum appraisal staff. That doesn't include support staff. You're gonna have to have some,
I
a
think that I
secretary, somebody to
understand
answer
that,
the
but I don't
phone.
think that other people.
Yeah, that's what I was
understand that, and
asking
that's
when
what
we
we're
talked
trying
No,
to.
that would be minimum appraisers actually supplying the values.
And when we went
defending
under the
values.
performance review, we were
Yeah.
told that that's bare minimum and should be updated. That's not what it takes to
Yeah.
pull off a functioning office. So when I was looking at some of the numbers that y'all had up there that you were actually a part of, the lowest I've seen was like 8 staff members, and with y'all doing their work also. I think there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration here, because one is that the money Fannin County has put into certifying this staff. This size of proposal would have been perfect for us back in 2014, when we were in a mess and we were above our ears. But at this point, the county has approximately 5,000 parcels still to be looked at, a little over that. And so we've done the yearly reevaluations, and we've rebuilt schedules, and we've hired GMass for our rural land, and are looking at doing that again for assistance so that we can continue to get to a maintenance point. And in saying that, I love GMass. Every one of y'all have been wonderful to me. I have nothing bad to say about GMass by no means. But my thoughts are being wasteful of taxpayers' dollars, of educating these employees. There's 13 of us now, in which we haven't hired back and replaced any of those that we've lost, trying to cut money. And we've got our educations behind us now, and there's still some that'll have some levels to climb, but for the most part, we're sitting nice, we're okay. And let all that money go, and go with a company, which I'm not saying you would not be wonderful. Y'all know I love you. But if you go with a company, and it doesn't work out to where we can get the work done for you, or you can get the work done for us, or you run into problems like we've run into, where in Fannin County, the Board of Assessors had to make a decision of quality over quantity. And in doing so, it slows you down. It's just not simply looking at 27,000 parcels. It's been a mess. And we're one digest year from being a completely done situation, minus our rural land maintenance and things of that sense. So I guess my question is would we really be saving money by letting a company come in right now and overlap what we've already done? Because if you do 8,000, 8,000, 8,000, you will be revisiting parcels we're done with.
But
Okay?
the law requires you to keep it, you don't just
Yes.
stop once you visit them one time.
Correct.
And you just said there were about 5,000 parcels you've not even touched.
Correct. And so if we get into that to where we let staff go and things don't work out as planned for y'all or us, I mean, you may decide it's not worth fooling with us, or the cost of things going up due to the complication, or as 3 years goes by and our parcel count changes. You know, we never really know what may happen down the road. We've
No
lost
guarantee on
that
prices,
staff.
is what you're saying.
We've lost that staff that this county has put
Then,
under
in.
contract.
yeah, it's a 3-year contract, so.
But after 3 years, and we've let, say, 5 of our staff go,
That's what I'm trying to ask.
if
That's
we
what
let
I'm
5 of
trying to
those go, then
Will the price jump, is what I'm trying to ask.
We would review the parcel count and see how many more parcels were added, but it's not gonna be a tremendous increase, I wouldn't think. I mean, that's how we work it, is on a per parcel basis. So we look at how many parcels there, how many we have to visit, and we know what it costs per parcel.
But the other question though was, if we let our personnel go, you know, we reduce personnel, then we've lost them to other counties. And then, I mean, y'all are a smart bunch, and you know what the law requires and everything else. You can put us over a barrel and raise the prices. And
That's not good business policy.
no,
We're
it's
not
not
about-
good business, but it can happen. That's what I'm getting at. That can happen, and then we're into jeopardizing every single individual in the county if we fall into trouble again with the state. I mean, is that not a valid point?
Sure it is. Anything's a valid point if you're trying to make it, but I mean, we're not in the business to put counties out of business.
And I wasn't saying that you are, but I'm just saying that that is out there, because this isn't a public meeting, it's an open meeting, and I want the public to actually know, you know, to have the question put out there, can it happen? Yes, it can.
And I think we got in business to help the counties. I mean, we
And that
go
goes
to
back to what I
school,
said earlier about
we
being a
trained, we
supplement.
grew up in the business, and that's kind of why we formed the company, was to assist and help, not hurt.
Right. And that's what I was getting at earlier when I said that y'all were developed basically as a support, not a takeover.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you could have turnover in the office, and now that money that you spent on training that personnel is gone, and you'll have to start back at square one again, and with us, it's.
And we've
it's
seen
moving
that
forward.
time and time again
Well,
with Gwinnett County and
Hall
Hall
County,
County.
that was his main purpose. He was upset because he spent so much money in training his staff, and then they would turn around and leave to another higher paying county or getting out of the business completely. So he would spend all this time and money, and he said, I'm tired of spending all that resource, we're just gonna outsource what we can. So I guess there would be different scenarios for different counties, but we're here to help if we can.
Can I get an answer to that question, Chrissy? Who would be responsible if we could not pull it all together because of
We
the
would
lack
be
of staff?
responsible for whatever we've got in this contract. Whatever our contract says is what we're responsible for. So if you can't get the work done that we need, then it's obviously gonna fall back on you.
Well, we're gonna have benchmarks too, because they'll have to
Absolutely.
meet and we'll have to meet. So we're gonna know monthly if we get behind or.
We track each phase, regardless if it's just what we're
We're
under
doing what the
contract.
county's
We're
doing.
tracking each phase of what this county and the company needs to do and have completed for the final product. And so if something gets behind, you'll see it week to week.
Right.
We can address that.
Well, I know that we had a budget proposal that came to us, and it was in favor of the GMass, if we chose to go GMass. And it did not have a line item for the appeals procedure. So in this instance, you have, I did an evaluation of homes alone and raised it 10 cents a square foot and had 1,800 appeals. Okay, we're gonna run into some problems here. And when you have that number plus, probably 2 or 3 times that, under appeals, that money can add up very quickly at $750 a day. Our Board of Equalization, they have 2 boards, and they, when it's that plentiful of appeals, they run 2 boards. So we're really looking at $1,500 a day in BOE. And that's nothing we have control over. That's to do with our Board of Equalization. They set all that up, and they may hear 4 appeals, and they may hear 24 appeals. That is out of my control, and it would be out of your control.
Absolutely.
Of how they choose to do that.
Now, the way we handle appeals is probably a lot different than the way counties normally handle appeals. We sit down, once all the appeals are handled, we start sorting them, we go through them, we send out 30-day notices on ones we can. We request further information on ones we can. So we try to send them very few, as few as possible to the Board of Equalization to try to cut down that number. And I believe in these contracts, we give you a week of BOE days. And then anything over the week is then charged for the county.
There
So you
should
get
be
5
appeal
days.
assistance in every contract we do. We don't just, the option's there.
Well,
with
and
it.
at 5 individuals, you would be doing their own.
Yeah.
There would be no way.
I mean, and that would be fine, that's like the Gwinnett project, they let us do the appeals.
And that can be very expensive for the county itself.
It can be.
I mean, that's something that wasn't taken into consideration in our budget. When you throw that back in there, you're not very far off on the numbers themselves.
Well, I mean, that would have to be in your budget to begin with, because the county would have to deal with the appeals as well as us. We're not gonna come in and arbitrarily raise the value. If you saw no need to raise the value, then we certainly probably would not see any need as well. So, I mean, I don't see how.
Well, if you're doing the schedule.
Right?
And you're doing the work.
But you're supposed to be doing that as well, so you would have these same appeals as we would have. So I don't see how the number of appeals could be an issue.
Duplicating work.
Mhm.
We're doing the same thing you all are?
No.
You just said that.
No, I said,
They're
if
doing
you were
fine.
doing the work, you would be
Yeah.
getting those appeals, right?
Yeah.
So that you would have to deal with them. So there's no difference in us having to deal with them than you having to deal with them. Somebody's got to deal with them, and it's gonna cost the county regardless.
But when we deal with them, we're dealing with them still within our budget, where you all, being an outside company, is going to charge after that week.
But Dawn just said that was not included in her budget.
That wasn't included in the budget proposal that we did with you all.
Our cost is what you're saying.
Yes.
But you would have an item for your cost, surely.
Yeah,
Well,
we
no,
would
what
for
I'm
ours,
saying
but the
is-
budget proposal we were given didn't have, it had y'all's proposal, but it didn't address what Don's.
Not that you've done anything wrong, or not that we've done anything wrong, it's just that the budget proposal that was given to us from the commissioner's office, considering GMass, did not take into consideration the appeal process, that you told us what it would be ahead of time, nothing else, your part. That's what I'm trying to explain.
Okay.
So that's another when you're comparing money, you know, we have to take that into consideration. Another question, what is the responsibility for, like, who would be responsible for errors and problems in the field? Because if we haven't site visited, it's gonna be very hard for us to be able to help a taxpayer in that situation where things are now. We know what we looked at. I mean, who would handle that if it didn't sync back, or we had problems with the taxpayer saying one thing and what you have turned in as another? Who would handle that?
Well, I mean, we have a two-part audit process. One is before our field folks sync their data from the field back into the system, it goes through an auditor. It's currently Tim Gorley, who used to be the Department of Audits. He's our auditor to review their work. But then after all the data is collected and put into WinGap, we go back through and analyze that with audit reports, comparing similar grade homes, size homes, age homes together to make sure all the data looks uniform. So there's, in that aspect, there's two audit processes, one during the review or collection process, and then one after the collection process, and then ultimately the ratio analysis.
But I think to
If you have market data there.
answer your question, if you had a taxpayer that disputed something we picked up or something we did, then we would go back out and look at it.
That's what you would be responsible
But in the meantime, whoever we have in the office is gonna be like, well, I don't know what they did.
Well, they can look at the
Where
computer and have
now,
notes in the
where
computer.
now they can look and see exactly what's being done.
You'll be able to see
It's
exactly
exactly the same.
every item they change in the field of the system. It'll highlight in red if they changed the grade or changed the siding from vinyl to brick or brick to vinyl. You'll see exactly who was out there, when they were out there, and what they changed when they were there.
And how long they were there.
Let me ask y'all, how many people do you think, knowing our numbers, and I know we're probably talking with Mark, how many people would you say that this county should have here in the assessor's office? We now have 13.
That's not for us. That's not our call
That's
either
up
way.
for you
I mean,
guys.
okay, if this was your office, how many would you think?
Well, that's just, you're just posing the question a different way if it was mine.
If
It's
it's
not a
your
question
office.
that we should be answering. That should be a
28,000
commissioner
parcels.
question.
How many people would you have?
I'm going to refer to the commissioner.
They just showed us 30 minutes of data.
They showed 36 employees to do 8,000 parcels a month.
All over the state.
No, that's 36 total folks that make up GMass.
Working
But I
all over the
think
state.
there's only 12 or 14 field staff that collect $8,000 a month. So the company runs completely different than the county as far as
Thank you.
who we allocate when and where. So we'll come in and
Because y'all
Terry
have other
gave,
support staff
Well-
to assist you with the stuff in the county as
Terry
well.
makes a good analogy with the power company. When they ramp up folks for the winter, when the,
Well, they tend to hire for the ice storm, that
Right.
happens once every 10 years.
so our guys are going around doing different projects at different times. So you may not need us to come in and be there all year to sit there and wait on appeals. So we can be analyzing some other data in other counties while they're doing the collection and auditing. And we may come in and do the valuations and analysis or the final review or,
But we have to provide all that info to you, which means we have to have.
well, we're collecting the
At that point,
information.
we would be the support staff for you here in Fannin County, getting all this information turned up, because obviously if we
Besides the
can't.
deeds, besides sales and deeds working, that's all we really need.
I mean, they
So
come
you
to
think two people can do that?
You said
Two
you
people can
had
do
3,000 in 9 months? Yeah.
But that would be all they could be doing. They would not be able to do anything else where we have.
Well, they don't come in all 3,000 at once, they come in, a few a day, here and there. So,
How many counties do you have of this size?
of this size,
This project size that you're doing.
well, we're working in what? Some larger, Carroll
Well, that's
County,
280,000.
Hall County, Gwinnett County.
77,000.
We're talking about
Oh,
this
we're talking
size
about
of
this
the
size.
contract.
We're talking about
We got
this size for this type of work,
Jeff Davis,
not just a supplemental.
12,000, 10,000 that we do. Jeff Davis,
I mean, we
Taylor,
work from small counties all the way up to some of the
Telfair,
largest.
all of those are similar and would be similar to this project. And we have Joe Wright, who's the project manager there. He manages those counties. He does all the field reviews. Now, we'll come in and analyze the schedules and tables and assist with the appeals. But
Well, what county do you have of this size?
that's Jeff Davis, Taylor,
Well, they're about
Telfair.
27, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smaller.
What
in
we're
Washington,
asking-
Lincoln.
Washington, Lincoln, yeah. I mean, there's.
So you have a 3-year contract with them where you're
Correct.
doing every
Correct.
bit of this for them
Correct.
currently? And how long have you been doing that?
We can provide you guys a list of all the 3-year maintenance counties.
See, I think that's the issue is the Board of Assessors have not had the opportunity to talk to GMass. And this was a really quickly called meeting that they have not had the opportunity to ask some of these questions to make a good, responsible, educated decision on something like this. And when you are talking about cutting employees and changing the current procedure, that's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And to the norm, the Board of Assessors are normally the one that approach GMass and tell them their needs and ask them what, you can do to help us. This is a little different. I mean, how many do y'all normally have in this situation where like a chairman has reached out and asked for this information instead of the Board of Assessors?
It's happened. Couple.
About 3 times.
But that's why we're kind of like not really understanding.
And we're not fully understanding the exact scope of work. When you start talking about taking employees out of our office, expecting us to do, you take half of our employees, or when upper management takes half of the budget away from us for employees. The budget proposal we were given was only for 5 people. That was no other support staff, period. Because naturally, numbers won't look low, but when you start acting or putting back in people to answer the phone, people to do other things, your mapping and the other things that I mentioned out of that recommendation, then we're back up to a few extra people.
Well, now, some of these people can have dual purposes. They can be clerks as well as appraisers. And if we're collecting all of your field work, then you really don't need anybody going out in the field. So you may need an appraiser in the office to answer some questions, but that appraiser can also work deeds or talk to the front desk, help out there. So, you know,
With
they can serve both
having
of you.
only the minimum staff that we were told under the last review that we needed more staff. We were put under the.
Now, it's my understanding from your last review that the
Well,
staff
put
was
under the
ramped
order.
up when you were under consent order, that
15.
that it was ramped up to get that job done, and then it was supposed to go back down for a maintenance type issue.
If you can take it down.
Well, that's what we're proposing.
But we're supposed to get rid of our people, and you bring your people in.
Well,
Thank you.
that's, you know, part of the proposal,
That's what
that we
it is.
can do it more
Yeah, you're gonna
cost
have
effective.
access to 36 folks instead of 30.
But you're only putting two.
No. To do field work, but you're gonna have different folks doing the analytical type stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you've got contact with every one of us, phones, emails.
So then when y'all do the mapping and all that, you're saying we don't need the mapper, so we don't need to pay.
Well, the mapping's not in this current contract. I said it could be, but it's not.
Okay. So, I guess what we're looking for is, what exactly is being asked of you all by the commissioner's office? Because we haven't asked for anything yet. We do some rural.
There's no asking, Mr. Junior. Here's the problem. What's your plan to cut nearly $400,000 out of that budget and get it down to where it's the average of other counties? Tell me that. What's your plan? You made a proposal to cut $20,000 out of the budget this year. So that means only 20 more years before we get to the point where it'll be the average. Now, I understand the personalities. I understand it's a tough thing about losing jobs. If that's the issue, then well, let's just hire 50 people here and 50 there, and I'll ask them all to vote for me, and I'll stay in office. I mean, that is what you're promulgating there. I'm against that. What we're trying to do is save the taxpayers money. I don't know how much clearer I can make that. Now, you've got a lot of issues that you want to talk with them about, and that's great. But you're forgetting the number one thing is getting the best service we can and getting this office run as well as other counties are at far less money. Now, I hope that's pretty clear to you, I hope.
Mr. Helton, don't you think you ought to have some courtesy?
Yeah. You know, we don't want to be vindictive about anything. We're trying to understand something, and you're the one that just jumped up on the horse there and rode off to the wild.
Excuse me, young man, you were not getting the
Amen, brother. Amen. Let them order.
We're trying to ask questions and get answers from these folks. They've taken their time to get up here.
Well, you can continue.
Hey, who do you think you are? Order.
Excuse me.
Mr. Helton, have some
Excuse
courtesy
me,
when you
ma'am.
speak
What's your
to people.
authority?
Excuse me.
What's your authority?
You need to please calm down or you'll have to leave the room, please. We're trying to have a meeting here between the Board of Assessors, GMass, and the Board of Commissioners.
And I have raised my voice to you.
Well, let's get away from this. Let's talk about facts and numbers, okay? We're going to waste a lot of
Jump on
time.
me about my educational level like you did the last time.
At this point, while we're on that subject of, under the consent order, I'm a third of that problem. Okay, I'm Earl Johnson. I've never spoken, has anyone with GMass ever spoke to me at all?
No,
You spoke to me during the,
my bad.
yeah. But other than that, have I spoken with any of you on the phone, seen you, even knew who I was?
No, I did not meet you.
Okay, I want to clarify that for everyone here that has accused Mr. Helton and myself of conjuring this up. I've never met or talked to any one of you. For this very reason, anything I ask you right now is going to be as pure as it possibly can be, because I've never spoke to any of you. We've never had any conversations, anything. And while we're on the subject of budget, it's my biggest problem, but I'm a third of that problem. Because during that period, when the other board was removed, we appointed a new board, we were in a consent order. I just give everyone a little bit of history because a lot of the board members that are here tonight might not understand what really went on. And this is what we're here for, to have a dialogue and ask questions. So any questions the board might have, I'd love to hear what you have to say. That way we all hear what each other says, and it's a lot clearer outcome. But back to my point, I'm a third of the problem of what we're facing right now, and I raised my concern like any other department in this county. When you give that money, it's almost near impossible to get it back, because that's just like my wife. If I allow her so much money a month, I'll never get it back. I mean, there's just no way. If I allow people in my company a budget, you'll never get it back. I understand that, and I understand the problems they have. I know each and every one of the people on the board, most of the people in the tax assessor's office. So it's a very personal issue with most everybody in this room. I think I can clear the air and say it's a personal issue to many people, okay? But my problem is I go back to what I asked 3 years ago. And I don't know if you remember me asking me, Don, when can we get this back to where it was? And for 3 years now, I keep hearing, there's no way, there's no way. You know, we would propose a $20,000 cut. Well, myself, looking at these numbers and looking at comparables, hard figures and numbers that anyone here can go research and see that these numbers are correct. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow when we're that much higher, okay? So being that I've never spoke to any of you, I want you to understand my concerns. My concerns are that we're $300 and some odd thousand higher than every surrounding county. That's a concern of mine. I hope that's a concern of the board's. Because now we have real hard figures. During the process of replacing the board, a new board came in. You know, we spent all this money. It's been an issue every year with the tax assessor since that happened, whether it be for vehicles or some other problem we've had. It's been an issue every year with the tax assessors, whether it be purchasing vehicles wrongly or anyway. I'm ready and to a point that I think we should wrap this up. Come to a solution, the Board of Assessors, the Board of Commissioners, as to how, number one, let's clear the air of how everyone feels. And I would like to hear from, you know, anyone on the board that would, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, so I'm going to say it this way. I was elected to handle every dollar of every taxpayer frugally. I believe that. I believe people still to this day, they expect the same thing. I want to find a way to get back to where we were. Okay, for Fannin County still has borders. Yes, we have more parcels, more pieces of property have been sold, more houses have been built. Okay, but see, I listened to data all year long. Our land development officer was here a month ago giving a report. Our permits are actually down this year to what they were last year. Okay, I listened to that data and I asked those questions to stay informed. And that's the reason why I do that. A lot of people say, why is he asking that question? Or is that just some formality just for him to be up there talking? No. That's how I gather my data as to what's going on in the county. I asked 2 meetings ago, how many new subdivisions are in this county? Now that was our land development officer. I asked her, how many new developments do we have going on? She couldn't name it 2. So really, and you know, I hear from the other side that absolutely wants to keep this budget right where it's at, stay where it's at, just like a different board wanted to do 3 years ago. They wanted us to stay right where we're at. There's no way we can cut it. We can't stay $300,000 higher than everyone around us. We can't. And I'll say that to the board, you know, face to face. We can't stay that much higher than everyone else that we're comparable to. There's no way. Any of you that are in business handle budgets, all of you are in business to handle budgets. There's no way, even at your own home, if you found a cable provider that could do something for 30% less, you would have to pay attention, okay? I think that's my purpose here tonight, is to pay attention to the numbers and not any of the personalities, okay? I'm here for the numbers. And that's what I want all of us to look at. Take ourselves out of it. Because I've known Dawn Cochran. She used to be ACUF. I've known her for very many years. She and I have sat in this very room and disagreed very harshly before. It doesn't mean I think any less or any more of her. Okay? I've disagreed with several people I can look at in their eyes. But all I'm saying is we have to take our personalities out of this, because this is not our money. This is everybody's money. All right? And when we can look at saving 30%, I don't think it's my assumption, I had never and wouldn't be in agreement with hiring your company to come in and take over that whole tax assessor's office. I wouldn't be in agreement with that. I don't think you would want to do that, would you?
We don't want to do that, no.
Okay, so that's one rumor that I've been blasted with. Okay, I hope that's clear. Even GMass is saying, we're not taking over your tax assessor's office. We don't want to. Is that
We
correct?
can be the tax assessor's best friend. I mean, that's what we do.
Okay.
I mean, we don't go into it alienate, we don't go into point fingers. You know, we go in to help the county. I know that sounds cliche.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because that lets me know where you're coming from. And I want everyone to know where I'm coming from. I don't think these people should come in and take over our entire office, okay? Now, there's been a bunch of people on Facebook today firing stuff off prematurely, not even knowing what they're talking about, saying those exact same things that are untrue. That's not what you're here for, and I want to clarify that to make sure that I'm not being led down the wrong path. You're not here to take over Fannin County tax assessor's office.
No.
Absolutely not.
And you don't want to.
No.
No, sir.
All right, well, I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so I hope the board hears that, because, I mean, I think we've all been getting different stories, and the whole reason we're all three here tonight, this is a perfect sandwich, okay? We can all find and feed off each other's brain and see where everybody's at, because that's what I want to happen tonight. I want us to come to some kind of knowledge. You got two boards together and a company saying they can help save us some money. Okay? And when we take the personalities and personalities, relatives, I'll go ahead and say it, personalities, relatives, friends, family, about whoever out of the equation, then we can get down to doing business. And that's what I'm here to do tonight, because I'm friends with a lot of you here, and a lot of you may disagree with what I'm saying right now, but I'm just speaking as truthfully as I possibly can, because I don't think any of us are going to get anywhere, the Board of Assessors I'm speaking, and the Board of Commissioners, until we have a meeting like this. And once we have a meeting like this, and we can all say, here's why I don't want to cut these jobs, okay? If y'all can come up with a good reason to why you don't want to save the taxpayers $300,000, I want to hear it right now. Because these people are proposing, let's just say if we're going to save 150, okay? Let's cut the 300 in half. Let's say, why wouldn't you want to entertain it? That's what I would love to know as a commissioner. Why is that completely out of the question? And it may not be out of the question, but I think that's what I just want to have a dialogue straight with y'all right now and find out exactly why. Either you do want to help us save some money, but now my opinion is we got to do more than $20,000, okay? Because we're up 300 something. And my concern every year has been, when can we get some of this money back? Can any of you remember a year? Can any of you remember a year that I didn't ask you during budget time? When will you get? I'll ask you that now. Have I ever not asked you? Or have I asked you every year?
Every year.
Every year. So I'm being as honest as I can be here. So I'd love to hear, why don't we want to try and save money?
Give him a chance to speak then.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Earl, I got
Excuse me, we're talking, it's Board of Assessors and employees, please.
Earl, I've got a question for you. I mean, since you're trying to learn, and I think you're kind of seeing a little bit maybe what I was trying to get at from a business standpoint, is how many employees are you expecting to cut our staff?
That's completely up to the 5 of you.
Yes.
It's not, I don't have a number in my head, okay? I don't have a number in my head. Remember, I'm not about personality, I'm about numbers, so.
So it's something I wanted to kind of point out. The numbers that are being threw out there that I see behind the scenes that you may not understand. We are the most comparable to Gilmer County, okay? In Gilmer County, and I think that you would agree that we are the most comparable to Gilmer County, would you not?
They have about 10,000 parcels. They have 36,000 parcels.
As far as growth and things that are going on and location and things that we've got going on, Gilmer County would be the most comparable. We're not $400,000 different than Gilmer County. Also, the amount of staff, we're not really far off there, and they are currently helping Gilmer County on top of having those staff members too. The savings that y'all are not privy of this information it's not 30% savings, because the budget that was presented by Robin or Mr. Hilmer, whoever it came through, Robin gave it to me. It didn't include the 5 staff members. It didn't include any appeals procedure expenses, a couple of other things. So when you put back, if you thought Fannin County could work on 10 staff, and you put back $60,000 in appeals or whatever it turns out to, you are no different than where we started with a certified group right now that are capable of doing this with some assistance from GMass of what we were talking about before on the rural land scope of things. So, I mean, the numbers themselves, I can see that you haven't seen some of the numbers we've seen. So when you say you can save us all this money, you're talking about from the largest figure that was submitted based off of the Board of Assessors 2019 budget proposal. You still have to add money to that budget, and that's what I want you to know, Carl. There's still money on the table. It has to take place no matter what happens, no matter if you cut 4 people, 6 people, 8 people, down to 5 people. There's still money that is not being considered there. Period. And so the business transaction of looking at saving 30%, it's not 30%.
So how do these larger counties with more parcels do it for cheaper? How is that?
How much money do they bring in?
Don, part of what we saw in some of the budgets that we pulled with different things like our mapping that is in our budget is not actually in their budget.
That is
and
true.
I got corrected by saying it came out of the general fund. It came out of an administrative line item or something. It wasn't out of the assessor's budget. There's different things within there that they didn't have in their budget, because we broke 3 or 4 of them down line by line and then added back what wasn't in, what was paid for out of another pocket or another line, if you will. And we came up with a lot different comparisons, and that's what Don was referring to on the Gilmer County side of things, on their budget being closer to ours. And then when you add back things that are in our budget that aren't in theirs, that you have to have, then it equals out even closer to those. And I'm sure Don can give you those numbers.
I have.
So do any of the other board members, do any of y'all have any?
I have a question, and you may have answered this in the past. Can you take what has to be done, what is left to be done in our county, and knowing what has to be done going forward, and look at our staff and give us what would be an adequate staff for y'all to come in and do your job?
Like a company.
I mean, that we can, so that we can actually say, is this what we're saving? I'm with Earl about saving money.
It would take a few days, but.
If we can save money, I'm for it, but I want to make sure, before I make a vote on this, that we're not backing up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'd have to do some figuring and.
That
it
would
take a
be
couple
what
of
I would
days,
ask
yeah.
for.
We're not voting on anything tonight.
I
I
understand.
understand that, but we're just.
But we're going to ask,
Discussion.
we would be asked to vote on this.
Yes.
This would be our vote, correct?
So could we end up maybe setting up another meeting time with GMass to come before the Board of Assessors? We'll have time at that point to make an educated decision, and now that you know what we're dealing with on this side, you will have an opportunity to be able to respond more so with what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, we could do
And at
something
that
like
point, then the Board of Assessors could make a decision if they chose to go with GMass or not. Because I just think that there's too many what ifs up in the air. If you're given a price at 5 people, but you're really gonna have to have 10 people, it's not safe to jump. And that's what Earl's saying. Give me numbers, tell me what this really is. There's no real numbers right now, because the numbers you've given us is real. There's some barrier that has to be filled between what you've given us, what's doable, and what actually gets approved by the Board of Commissioners.
think it'd probably have to be a joint venture between the commissioners, because we'll have to get some information from them as well.
What do you mean by that?
No, you can come in, well, I
Well,
think
as
what
far as
Don's saying
budget
is come
items and
in.
things, how much is allocated to each separate item, how much they've allocated in the past to appeals, things of that nature.
There is no allocation for appeals because.
Well, somebody's gotta pay for it. That's my point, is that it comes from somewhere in the county, because it has to be
It comes
paid
out of
for.
salary.
So they take that out of someone's salary?
Yes, so whenever we go to the hearings, if we're there for 3 appeals, then we sit and hear 3 appeals, and then she gets up and goes out in the field. That is an actual person in our office representing the.
But you're still having to pay the board of, the equalization.
No, we
It has to
don't,
be-
that comes from the clerk of superior.
Well, then that would still be the case.
She's talking about the overall cost
The overall
of the
cost,
appeal
because that's what you were
process.
saying, it costs
It's more than
$60,000
just
a year
part
for
of the
to handle
assessment.
appeals.
So that's just us, that's not
Yeah.
not what another office is responsible for. I wasn't bringing in anything to do with another person. So-
Anthony, you had a question?
How much time do we have? I mean, we're coming toward the end of the year, they've got budget constraints, I mean, how much?
That's a commissioner.
How much time do we have to make this educated, if we can call it that, decision?
Robin, what's our drop dead date for getting the budget? We have to have it signed off on by December, is it 13th?
Well, we have to have, well, we can come make another special call meeting for the budget if we had to. We didn't have to do it on the 11th. But we do have to advertise it for a week before we can vote on the budget. The total budget.
So a date?
Or amend the budget?
The other option is not being in any hurry at all, okay? This is an important thing. I personally don't want your board dragging out 5 months just to kick the ball down the road. I would like to address it right now and to know whether the 5 of you feel like you want to try and save any money or you don't. That's what I would like to know,
Well,
okay?
it's worth a look, like you're saying, and I think what Don was asking is if you would be able to come in and monitor what goes on in the office, speak with Don and see what goes on, and then since you run the
We've
company, be able to
been
say.
working in the tax assessor's office since 1989, I have been, I know what
And
goes
see,
on in the
and
office.
you give a recommendation on where you see deficiencies or something like that, I think maybe
I
that's
don't
what
think
the
you want
board-
us in that position.
No, I don't think that would be, I think we
That would be
could give you a
conflict of
plan of
interest.
action of here's how we would approach running the office for a day-to-day. Now, then you can take that back and compare it to how it's currently being run. But I don't think
Well,
it's a good
that
idea that
would
we
give
come
us-
in
That
and
would give us, I think, what we're looking at.
critique her management.
Well, what was you saying as far as extension?
We can amend the budget at any point.
Right.
Okay, but, we really need to set a budget so every citizen knows what it's gonna be. Okay, so it's kind of, it's a hurry, but it don't have to be as big a hurry. I don't know how to put it, the budget can be amended at any point. But I would like to see some sort of closure, because I'm tired of whispers in the audience. I'm tired of being told to shut up by people, I want this to end. Okay, I realize that 8% of this crowd is here to, it seems like mock, and that's fine. But I'm here to ask real questions, and that's what I'm gonna do, whether whoever mocks me or not, okay? So, I would enjoy if y'all could get together and us find where we're gonna be. Because I'm very clear where I'm standing. I think we need to save some money, all right? We need to work together with y'all to figure out how we're gonna do that, if you feel that way. But if you don't feel that way, if y'all think you're just where you're at and you can only save us the $20,000, and there's no way we can go back to maintaining our digest like we used to, like the term you used was maintaining once we came back out of the consent order. All right, that's the exact same question I asked 3 years ago. When we get finished with the consent order, will this go back down? And everybody was kind of shaky, and then I was told, no, there's no way. Well, that's inconceivable for me, because if we have a problem in our business, once we get it attended to, usually we go back to business as usual. We don't just keep pumping money in that same problem. I don't know any of us keep pumping money in one problem. We don't do it. You don't do it in your household. If you have a problem with your garbage disposal in your kitchen, if you pour enough money into it, eventually you're going to go ahead and buy it full, you're going to buy a new one, and you're going to put it in, and then you're going to have no more problems. And then you're back to maintaining. That's what I want us to get back to. I want all of you at GMass to understand, because I haven't spoken to any of you. I want you to know, as far as my opinion, that's where I'm at. Y'all spoken with Commissioner Helton. Y'all know where he's at. All right, I'm about the money. I want to get it back down to where I think it should be, and that's comparable with other counties that have greater amount of parcels and are geographically larger counties. I think we can do that, but I think it's going to have to take a change of position on both sides. Neither one of us can stand there like the old Billy Goat and say, I'm not budgeting. I don't think we should take that stance, because you know who's suffering in the end? If we consistently spend $300,000 more than what your numbers or our numbers are showing, okay, that's on us. But I don't want to keep going down that road. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
We have a meeting December the 13th, tax assessors does. Can you come and sit down with us and talk to us about this?
Talking to me, Ms. Biggie?
No, it's talking to Earl.
I mean,
Oh, okay.
I can come at any point, but I think y'all have to reach a cumulative decision before anybody needs to talk to me.
Well, I think we all need to sit down and talk.
We're doing it right now, so let's talk. We
Well,
got the
not
newspapers
really.
here, we got the cameras rolling. I'm gonna do it right here, not in a small office. And I personally don't care if we're here to midnight. I want to get some sort of idea of where the Board of Assessors stands before I leave here tonight. That's what I would love. If you know, the data's there, and that's the last question I have for you. Do you feel comfortable with the numbers in the contract that you provided earlier?
Yes.
With doing that, so you feel comfortable with that? Because we're throwing other numbers in here. Well, that's not any money is figured into that for.
And I think that's for the full, that's for a full walk-around price.
The problem
That's a
is,
walk-around of each property.
the problem is, it's not her numbers. It's the numbers that have came from Robin in the sense of other employee numbers that it would cost for cutting or not cutting staff. And that's where these numbers have nothing to do with Christie.
You want to address that, Robin, since you've been challenged directly?
There was no challenge.
There's a
whatsoever.
challenge there. We're just having to figure out as a board how many personnel we need to accomplish.
Well, let Robin
the task.
answer the question if she wishes. That was you said you have problems with your numbers.
Well, basically, I didn't know basically any numbers. I was told that you had to have 5 people in that office at least, and that's what I put, 5 people. Of course, the other things on employee benefits and everything, of course, that's standard, you know, by law mostly of that. I didn't take off, I took off a little bit on education because there's not gonna be as many people. I took off, for insurance purposes, there's not gonna be as many people. The only thing I didn't take off that Christie had mentioned to me was there was some kind of mapping thing that they actually provide that we're paying, I think, $20,000 a year for or something like that. Of course, that's still in there. That actually can be cut, So again, I mean, I'm basing it on the board, actually, Junior, I think, specifically said we have to have 5 people, and that's what I based it on, and that's basically all I did. You come back and say you need 7 people, we'll adjust it to that and see where the numbers come out at. But again, all I did was take the 5 people that I told that you have to, at the minimum, have in tax assessor's office, and that's what I went with. Anything else as far as, cars, travel, any of that stuff, I had to guess. I mean, I just had to base it on you have that many people, you divide it, you add back how many you have, and that's how I come up with the budget.
So what I'm saying.
So it can be
when
tweaked.
those are more accurate and a number is achieved, then those numbers of overall budget, which have nothing to do with Christie, that's nothing she had anything to do with. But when those overall budget numbers are adjusted accordingly, you will see even more of a smaller margin of savings. That was all I was saying. I wasn't challenging you. I was not being disrespectful to you, Robin. By no means.
Yeah,
That's not what he
I mean,
was.
there's going to be, like I said, you add more people, it's going to be more cost. There's
Right.
some categories there that can actually be cut that I did not cut.
Correct.
So you got to find out what the, overall will be.
So you're saying maybe some of those can offset, because you're still saying there's some categories that can still be cut?
Yeah, so it could be offset a little bit, or it could be, but it's not going to be significant unless they really add a bunch of new, more employees than what I did up with 5.
in the presentation though, with the 5, it's not like they're appraisers all the time. They're sometimes in the office. I mean, are all the appraisers now, are they always out in the field, or are they ever in the office?
They have many hats. There's not one appraiser that just simply does.
So that's nothing, what I'm getting at, that's nothing out of the ordinance.
Correct, but my concern is that if we cut the staff to that point, I know for a fact, at 5 people, we cannot do the work they need done so that they can do their job. And I've discussed this with them. And I don't ever want to set us up for failure. But I also see talking tonight that there may be room for us to talk to GMass in some areas that I know we need help in coming up, and areas we don't need help in, which is field work, and try to offset there, and cut in other directions too, if we can sit down and talk and see what they think on those aisles, and to try to help money-wise also.
The majority of your budget though, I mean, I don't know, because we keep talking about cutting here, Robin, when you were speaking, and adding there, I mean, the majority of your budget is salaries.
Correct.
It's here somewhere. Hold on 1 second. The majority of your budget, the salaries, the 2017 actual was 566, correct?
The actual,
That's what I have in my copy. And the year before was 570, and the year before that was 515. And then in 2014, it was 431. So a lot of the growth, I just want to try and weave our way through. We can maybe cut $5,000–6,000 on one of these line items you're talking about, but the majority, and this is what I said, taking the personalities and the people out of this, the majority of the salary is salary. The majority of the problem, I think, with the budget is salary. And that's like, that's a decision for the board.
We've actually talked about that as a board on how many people, we need to find out, how many people really need to do the job if GMass comes in, because that makes a big determination on what's done. Because like you said, you take tables and chairs away, and it doesn't save you anything. It saves you peanuts. But you take a salary away, there's your savings. And we don't want to lose a salary, we don't want to lose a position. We don't want to cut down the number of people we have, and then just say, for instance, we cut you and you're behind now. Now we got to try and hire Earl back. Well, we can't, because he's already got another job.
But that can happen, Troy, in any business, in any household across the United States.
We've got to look at that, and we've got to make sure as a board.
We had the same issue with the road department.
But we got to do that.
And when you cut things, people have to go to save money. We have to. That money can't go out anymore. That's what saves the money, when that money doesn't go out anymore. That's why I've asked you, are y'all comfortable with your proposal? Because that's something everybody's got to feel comfortable with.
Okay, we're going to take about a 5-minute break, let everybody stretch if it needs to, and then we're going to reconvene. We've been going at it pretty hard here for a while, so we're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then we'll start back up. Okay? Everybody but you, Christy, you take your time. Did we lose anybody? Junior?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue the meeting. I think there was a question that was posed earlier about when we need to get this resolved, and I'm willing to throw this out to the Board of Commissioners. We're about out of time to approve budgets. However, as much as I don't like to do that, if we have to approve a budget and get that done, and then we have to amend that budget, I'm willing to do that, if that's what it takes to get through this and get it done. However, I think that we need to get this resolved, whatever we're going to do, before the end of this year, which is only about 6 weeks from now. I really feel like that needs to be resolved. Mr. Sosby, how do you feel? I hadn't asked you anything at this point.
Well, I'm off taking money as well, but I'm not getting rid of a lot of employees. It's kind of hard to do both. That's going to get rid of a bunch of employees. What's the number that I'm sure you worked on it, of employees that will have to leave that office?
I don't think any of us have right now a real specific number to throw out there and do that. I think we've got to do some more number crunching and then go from there. I'm looking at numbers. I mean, if you've got, it's kind of hard to say that, because if you have an employee that's making, X number of dollars per hour, and then you have someone that's making much less, obviously, if you lose the higher paid employee, that stretches the money for you. But that's not a call for us. That's really the tax assessor board. The employees of the tax assessor's office works for the board, and that's where that call has to be made. My concern is just real simple. What I've been hammering away at is this gigantic difference in our budget for Fannin County. I do not accept that we can't do what other counties can do. I mean, if that's the case, then we got to start looking into it personnel, because I don't buy that. And it's a tough thing to do, and I'm glad we've had this real animated discussion. But when you're talking about $300,000 to $400,000 a year of taxpayer dollars, it's worth getting emotional about. So if I've offended someone with getting a little wound up, I apologize for that. But what I don't apologize for is bringing something like this to the forefront, because it's not just the pink elephant in the room, it's the pink elephant in a mini skirt and a tutu. And it has to be addressed. And I, for one, would not feel comfortable. I wouldn't even want to continue doing my job as commissioner if I were afraid to tackle that. And I'm going to ask the board to do the same thing. It's a tough thing. We appreciate you serving on the board. And having to go and get on a board and then start looking inwardly about reducing cost and where it affects people's jobs and lives. That is tough. Nobody's trying to pass over that. But I'm going to give you an example. We have 54 people out of the road department, Public Works, at the end of 2016. 54. That number is now about 34 to 35. We're doing a better job. It's organized, and it's because it's being run professionally. And audited numbers, $1 million were cut out of that budget, out of expenses last year. Now, I don't recall having to go through all of this, fighting and arguing and going back and forth. It was done. And that is, I think, having set that as an example, I'm not remiss to ask any department in the county that's under our purview to look inwardly and look at cost and cut it. This county has the lowest millage rate in the state of Georgia, the lowest in the unincorporated areas. We've had that for several years. It's not anything I did, but the challenge is to do that. And we're not going to maintain that if we're afraid to sit down and discuss difficult things. So again, as Commissioner Johnson mentioned, we want to take the personalities out of this. Let's look at the numbers. Let's try to do a good job. We're trying to save the taxpayers money. This is real indicative of how difficult it is to cut government, really. And I can't imagine how difficult it would be to tackle something like the EPA on a federal level, or even some state agencies. But our current president has already issued an ultimatum or a memorandum, whatever, a demand of cut all departments 5%. That's huge. That is absolutely huge for the federal government. And we've gone through, and I've invested a lot of time and effort in showing in our surrounding areas, which there may be little slight differences here and there, but basically there's not that big a difference. And they're doing it at much less money. So my challenge and what I'm asking the board, and I hope that we're going to get some agreement that you are interested in trying to pursue this path of us work on efficiency and let's work on saving tax dollars and not $20,000 a year that takes 20 years to meet what our other counties are doing. So I'm going to ask you right now, board, as a group, are you interested in working with us to save the taxpayer money and get this budget back to where it should be? Is there an interest there in doing that? Okay, I'm seeing heads. I see 2 heads. Mark, how about you? You interested in that? Ms. Bearden, you're interested in that? Okay. I have nothing else to say.
Stan, I think we got the DOM set up to try to get both sides together at a time and a day.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna try to tell you.
I'm sorry, Mark.
I said, I think we had DOM ready before you started speaking to try to get a time and a day set up so that we could meet with them.
We talked to GMass and we've agreed to get together hopefully before December the 13th on some numbers and some things like that if they can, because our board meeting is December 13th. And if so, then we'll go from there.
We'll have to get the budget approved before that, but I'm willing, if the commissioners are willing to do that, to, as much as I don't like to amend budgets, but if this is what we've got to do to give you some more time, I'm all for doing that. How do you feel, commissioners? To do this before the first of the year. In other words, approve a budget, and then if you need the time to get this resolved, then we can look at amending the budget. I'm all for doing that in another special meeting.
It'll just, for me, it'll depend on what budget is being proposed for me to approve. I mean, I understand, we can amend it at any time, but I mean, to me, the bottom line is gonna make the difference. Just throwing it out there one more time as to whether, if it's reasonable, and I think with all of us working together and communicating, but I think meetings like this are more productive. You know why? Because no one can say, Earl said, Stan said, Larry Joe said, Anthony said, Mark said, Jamie said, Angelina said this. Because I got bombarded this weekend by people in support of the tax assessor's office. Said we was coming here tonight to vote. There's posts before I got here on Facebook. I don't do Facebook, but I had other people who knew I would be concerned in seeing it. Some of the people in the back rows, they're sending out stuff that's absolutely not true, but it gets sent out. And I think that's where all the animosities come from. But if we think there's many supporters here of the tax assessors, okay, I promise you, I don't feel this way about saving $300,000 all on my own. And there's many taxpayers we all see and we all know out here on a daily basis who will not say anything to the tax assessor's office. Do you know why? And most everyone will tell me this. Why they won't come to an open meeting and say anything?
Because their value will go up.
They're afraid of their value going up. And that's a fact. Would you say anything and it get put in the paper and that assessor have to come to your house? Let's be honest. I wouldn't. I have to because I'm a commissioner. Okay? But the average Joe out here is not going to come. Now, he'll come and support y'all because what can it hurt? That's the mood out there. And not everybody gets to see that because not everybody gets to hear it every time they're eating, every time they're in the grocery store, every time they're out. I promise you, we all get that. Okay? They're not going to tick y'all off. Okay? So I want you to understand how important your role is. I think it's more important.
Well, let me say this. I think we do understand how important our role is, and I think we're trying to meet you halfway here with this. We're getting preached to, and we get it. We understand it.
Exactly.
Okay,
So let's do
I'm
this.
sorry.
Let's set this date. Let's set this date, and let's all work together. We get it. Okay?
I understand, and I'm sorry you feel that way. I want to be clear because I think this is the first open meeting we've all had. And I'm proud of it myself, that we can all dialogue with each other. And I know I do talk a lot sometimes, but I don't mean no harm, Mark, I promise you.
Well, I was superintendent of schools, and I get it. I want to save taxpayer money too. We get it. We get the message. Now, let's move on and set a date so we can do this. Right?
Mr. Sosby, you got anything further to say, sir? Okay. Then, Mark, what will you folks do? You will look at some dates and then pass it on to us?
Did we not?
We'll get together sometime between our board of
Okay.
meeting.
I was waiting to hear you. Open.
We don't have a date right yet, but we will have one.
Sometime
This will
before the
include you, Ms. Reese, and your group?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is that going to work with you? Will you be able to do that? Do you come back up here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't have any problem coming and meeting with them and talking to them and discussing, you know, what we can do and our role and what's expected of them. I think that's where the meeting is really headed. That's the premise of it. I'm not coming up here to audit any of their work or to say, you know, they're doing anything right or wrong. That's not going to be my role.
Have anything else we need to?
No, I better be quiet, I don't have my road with me.
Okay. I don't know why we had executive session on here. We need executive session for any reason, Commissioner Johnson?
I don't think so.
Anything, any other comments or questions? We pretty well covered it, I think.
I am, once again, I don't want proof, but I'm glad we all got together. And I appreciate each and every one of you showing up. It was very productive.
There's been a couple of folks that asked for the presentation. I don't know if they want the PowerPoint.
Yours or?
Ours.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
If you want to disseminate that to whoever's
Well,
asked.
I don't have,
Yeah,
the only
left
thing
it
I've
on
got
that
is,
stick,
you know,
and she can
Okay.
make copies of that.
Yeah.
We gave that-
Robin's got a copy of the
Okay.
PowerPoint. If y'all want to give that out.
So Robin, is it all right if any of the public, they want copies of this to contact you, you can see that they get it?
Yes, I'm back here. I moved, sorry.
I didn't see you standing up there.
But yeah, I have a copy that, as long as it's okay with you, because that's your,
The latest one that we gave to you earlier.
okay.
I want to thank everybody for being here, and I mean everybody, the public. It's, this is a big deal. And obviously, when we're talking about something like this, emotions can get going, but basically, the whole idea is for us to address something and come up with something that'll run hopefully better and save taxpayer money. It's worth it, whatever it costs us in blood pressure or whatever. I have nothing else to say. I'm going to ask for a motion for adjournment. Do I hear that? Okay. I'll second it. All in favor? Thank you folks for coming.